Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to discuss my favorite 1-2 punch. So a lot of guys out there have their favorite 1-2 punch, meaning there are two lures that they're going to throw. They're going to throw this one lure and they get a bite on it, but they miss the fish, or the fish lets it go, and they're going to grab this other bait, throw that bait in there right away. That's a 1-2 punch. Or you catch a fish on one bait, they're catching a bunch of fish, and that one, they stop biting it, then they throw a different bait in, and they switch back and forth between those two baits. That's also what some guys consider a 1-2 punch. I've done it too. And a lot of times the favorite 1-2 punch is like a bladed jig and a worm, or a jig and a worm, and all really good options too. Seriously, all really good options. You can't ever go wrong. My favorite 1-2 punch actually includes bait that we just talked about in the other video, and it is the first one here. It's the big swim bait, and I'm going to say big swim bait category. So I'm going to do the soft plastic one, and then also like say the glide baits. So they, it's just because it's a bigger bait, and I know they have a little bit different of an action, but this is the way I like to rig mine, the way I like to throw mine in the spring. My favorite springtime 1-2 punch, might I add. But what I really like to do, and I'll switch back and forth depending on what area I'm at. If I'm not sure if there's going to be any fish in the area, I'm not sure how active they are. And I know this is going to be kind of like, from one end of the spectrum to the next, except for the fact that I'm not burning this swim bait. I'm actually slow rolling it. So it's really not that bad. The difference is the size, of course, but I've got this big 7-inch swim bait, and then this other one, I've got just a wacky worm. Wacky rig stick bait. And you get a ton of bites on these stick baits. You just get a ton of bites. So this is actually a really good search lure. Sorry. This is actually a really good search lure for wherever you're gonna go. And you're gonna get bit on here off of this lure. The only thing is that if it's a bigger fish, they might prefer a bigger bait. That's why this is one of my favorite 1-2 punch. Because I've noticed that in my experience, that when fish are biting this and they start slowing down on this, I will throw this something completely different. They might be getting used to seeing this. I'll throw something completely different like this and just get hammered, and vice versa. I've been throwing this. Oh, they're probably used to that big swim bait. They're used to seeing it swimming around and pulling in Uncle John from the weeds. So, and then I'll throw this one, this bait, the wacky rig stick bait. It doesn't have to be a stick bait. You can be a wacky rig finesse worm, whatever. Just a wacky worm. And these are my favorite go-tos for my 1-2 punch. And you set them up for however you want. I think I've gone through both of these before, and especially with this guy recently. But for an example, so here's an example of how I'd go after a spot with this 1-2 punch. My first thing is I'm looking for big fish in the spring. I'm gonna throw this bait first. This is gonna be my first bait I'm gonna throw. I'm gonna go and find some main lake points and try to work those points up to shallow and see where they're at, see if they're on there. And then move to secondary points that go into, like, say, spawning flats and grounds, stuff like that, because I want to see if they're staging or just kind of wherever they're at, right? So if it's really early, they might not be up in those flats yet, those spawning flats. But if I'm not finding them, then they're going to be up, flat. So what I'll do first is I want to throw a bigger bait and look for a bigger bite. Now, if I don't get any bites on this bigger bait, then I'll throw the wacky worm out there and just start, I'll just pop it around a little bit, let it sink, a little finesse. It takes a little bit of time. That's why I do like this one, because I can slow roll it, and I can, sometimes if you get a bite from a smaller fish, they'll bite it, but then and then you go set the hook and there's nothing there. So a lot of times, because all they're doing is they're biting the tail. That's all they're doing. And that's how sometimes you can tell if it's a smaller fish, or maybe that's just not what they really want, and they're not committing to it. And then that's where I will throw in this wacky worm. These are my favorite 1-2 punch. You can throw these in, a lot of different depths. Obviously, when you got a wacky worm here, you're probably gonna want to put maybe a weight in the bottom here, or do a weighted like a jig head and rig it wacky, and let it sink down, say like weed lines and such. Wherever you're marking fish, that's going to work out really well. And same thing with this one. You're going to want, I'm going to slow roll this down the weed lines. This is stuff that's worked for me. That's the only reason why I'm saying all this is what's worked for me in the past, and this is actually what I'm going to be doing this spring as well too. So I will have these all rigged up too. I'll have some other baits rigged up as well, but if you, for me, if I'm going to just take 2 rods out for this spring, definitely this bait and then this bait. Both of them get hammered, and especially if you get like sometimes the big fish, they don't want the big baits, and sometimes it's just the way it is. Yeah, I know. In the last video I said it's true, big baits catch big fish. That is true, but there are certain times where they do want something a bit more finesse, something that's not as big. And that even goes for in the springtime, and I've even seen it in the fall. So do you guys, I'm sure. But my go-to colors for these baits, obviously, I've been throwing a lot of white. I catch a lot of different watercolor and clarities. I catch a lot of fish off of white. I'm not sure what it is, because a lot of waters I'm fishing don't have shad, but some of them have crappie. So I mean, it can imitate a lot of different bait fish. But the biggest thing that I take away from it is I get a lot of bites. And I throw some other baits, some other colors too, but this is the one I use the most. And for the wacky worm, it kind of changes, from year to year. Sometimes I'll throw the green pumpkin is always a good favorite. It's hard to go wrong with green pumpkin. There's a lot of times where I will throw June bug. June bug gets bit a lot for me, especially in the springtime. And because there's times where I'll throw like a June bug colored jig and a June bug colored trailer, and I get bit on everything from it: pike, walleye, bass, and big bass. Caught 4 or 5 pounders on those baits, but I've also caught numerous 4 or 5 pounders on these baits as well. So for me, my 1-2 punch for the springtime is definitely going to be a wacky worm and the swim bait. Now, for you guys, it might be a little bit different. You might want to mix up a little bit differently, and throw a couple different. You might have a different 1-2 punch, is what I'm trying to say, and that's okay. What I love about this is that it goes from one spectrum to the next, or from one end to the other, right? One extreme to the other. You got a big bait, you're slow rolling, or you can speed it up, do whatever you want, and then all of a sudden you got a bait that's moving so slow. I mean, it's a weightless worm, right? It's a weightless wacky worm, so it's just sitting there, just tantalizing those fish, and sometimes it's just one or the other, but there's days where both these are just gonna get crushed like crazy. So it's been one of my favorite 1-2 punches. Maybe not. It's actually almost one of my most favorite 1-2 punches, which means a lot, or says a lot, because I really do like throwing the jig and the worm. So I mean, a lot of times a great 1-2 punch is throwing a jig and a worm, or a worm and a bladed jig. All those are still really great too. So this is my favorite 1-2 punch that I'm going to have out on the deck this spring. So guys, if you want to give this a shot. I mean, it's worked out great for me in the past, and I'm sure it'll work out for you too. Just might just need to take some time, maybe find those fish and locate the fish. That's the biggest part about fishing, is locating those fish first. I mean, you might be throwing the right bait in the wrong place. You're not going to catch. You could be throwing the wrong bait in the right place, and get bit. So I mean, it all matters on finding those fish first, locate those fish, and then figure out what it is they want. For me, it's either I find it's a lot of times either the wacky worm or the big swim bait, and then maybe sometimes they just do want a jig. It's sometimes just the way it is. But guys, that's it. These are my like I said, these are my favorite. This is one of my favorite 1-2 punches for the spring and sometimes the fall. So hopefully this helps you guys out this spring, and get out there and catch some big giant fish. But that's it. I'm gonna end this video right here. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll catch you in the next video.